Hey everyone, and welcome back to Chat Like a Native. So you know how we always talk about sounding more fluent and confident in English? Well, today we're going to do a deep dive on one super simple trick that can make your English sound like way more sophisticated and natural.
I like it.
We're going to talk about ditching very and replacing it with vocabulary that truly packs a punch.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
It's so easy to fall back on familiar words, like very, even when we become more comfortable with English.
It's true. It's true.
But you know, sometimes those familiar words can actually hold us back
Oh, interesting.
from really expressing ourselves with more precision
I see what you mean.
and impact.
Yeah. I think we've all been guilty of overusing very at some point.
Right. And the thing is, relying on very can actually make your English sound a bit bland and repetitive.
Yeah. It's almost like adding too much water to a watercolor painting.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
The colors are still there, but they lose their vibrancy and depth.
Exactly.
So think about it. Would you rather say a very big house?
Or an enormous house.
Exactly.
Enormous definitely wins.
It just creates a much stronger image in your mind, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Enormous instantly evokes a sense of grandeur and scale that very big just doesn't capture.
Right. And it's not just about physical size either.
Right.
You could describe a problem as an enormous challenge.
Yes.
And you immediately understand the weight and the significance of that challenge.
It's amazing how one word can make such a difference.
It really is.
Yeah.
So you're saying choosing more precise vocabulary is key to sounding more like a native speaker.
Absolutely. Native speakers tend to have a wider range of vocabulary that they can use, and they use it to add nuance and depth to their communication.
Yeah.
And the great thing is this is a skill that you can develop too, regardless of your current level.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I'm already feeling inspired to expand my vocabulary.
Good.
Besides enormous, what are some other powerful words that we can use to replace very?
Okay, well, let's say you want to describe something that's not just beautiful, but truly special and refined. Instead of reaching for very beautiful, you could use the word exquisite.
Exquisite. I love that word. It sounds so elegant and sophisticated.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
Exquisite suggests a level of artistry, craftsmanship, and attention to detail that goes beyond just being beautiful. So think about describing a handcrafted piece of jewelry or a beautifully prepared meal. You
know, I've always wondered about the difference between beautiful and exquisite.
Yeah.
I feel like exquisite implies a certain uniqueness and rarity.
Yeah.
Something that's truly one of a kind.
That's a great observation. Exquisite often evokes a sense of something precious and exceptional, something that stands out from the ordinary.
Right.
It's a word that's often used to describe art, fashion, and experiences that are meant to be savored and appreciated.
So it's not just about the visual appeal, but also the craftsmanship.
Yes.
The history, the story behind it.
That's it.
It's like you're saying, this is something truly special.
Yes.
And worthy of admiration.
Exactly. And by using exquisite instead of very beautiful, you're not only elevating your language, but you're also conveying a deeper understanding and appreciation of what you're describing.
That's a great point.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got enormous for when we want to emphasize size and grandeur, and exquisite for when we want to highlight beauty, artistry, and refinement.
Yes.
What about when we're talking about something incredibly exciting or thrilling?
Then we need a word that captures that feeling of exhilaration and energy. Instead of saying very exciting, try using exhilarating.
Exhilarating.
Oh, it does.
It perfectly encapsulates that feeling of excitement, energy, and pure joy.
Yeah.
Think about describing a roller coaster ride or an amazing concert.
You're right. Exhilarating really paints a vivid picture of that feeling.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you're right there in the moment experiencing the excitement firsthand. Exactly. And that's the power of choosing the right vocabulary. It allows you to not only communicate your message, but to also evoke emotions and create a shared experience with your listener.
So far, we've covered some great, very replacements. Enormous, exquisite, and exhilarating. And I'm already feeling more confident about using them in my own conversations.
Good.
But I know there are more words out there, so let's keep going.
Okay.
I'm excited to see what other very replacements we can discover.
Me too. You know, it's really fascinating as we explore these alternatives to very.
Yeah.
It reminds me of how much richness and depth there really is in the English language.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting to think that by just, choosing our words more carefully, we can express ourselves more vividly and connect with others on a much deeper level.
Absolutely.
But let's be honest, sometimes even when we know a word, it can be tricky to actually use it naturally in conversation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It does take practice.
Yeah.
And one of the best ways to integrate new vocabulary is to try to create a link in your mind.
Okay. Between the word and a specific experience or emotion.
Okay.
So, for example, think about a time you were truly surprised by something. Something that completely shifted your understanding of a topic.
Okay, I'm thinking about it. You know, just the other day, I was reading an article about the history of language, and I came across this astounding fact about how many words are borrowed from other languages.
Wow.
It completely changed how I view English.
See, that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Instead of saying very surprising,
Yeah.
you naturally used the word astounding.
Right?
Because it accurately reflected the intensity of your surprise.
That's true. I didn't even have to think about it.
Right.
The word just popped into my head because it was the perfect fit for that feeling of awe and disbelief.
Exactly. And that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
A level of fluency where you can instinctively choose the right words to express yourself clearly and authentically. It's like having a toolbox full of different tools, each one perfectly suited for a specific task. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of English learners, myself included, sometimes feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of words in the English language.
Of course.
Where do you even begin?
You're not alone in feeling that way.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that you don't need to know every single word in the dictionary to be fluent.
Right.
Start by focusing on words that are relevant to your interests and daily life.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So if someone is interested in travel, they might focus on learning words related to different cultures and landscapes and experiences.
Precisely.
Okay.
And as you encounter new words,
Uh-huh.
try to actively use them in conversations or in writing.
Okay.
The more you practice, the more natural those words will become.
It's like learning a new dance move.
Yes.
You might feel awkward at first,
Mm-hmm.
but with practice, it becomes second nature.
Exactly.
Speaking of feeling overwhelmed, sometimes we experience emotions so intensely
Yeah.
that it's hard to find the right words to describe them. What happens when fairy just doesn't cut it?
That's where a word like overwhelming comes into play.
Okay.
It captures that sheer force of an emotion,
Right.
whether it's positive or negative.
So it's not just about the strength of the feeling,
Right.
but also about how it affects us.
Yes.
How it can sometimes feel all-consuming.
Exactly. Imagine you're standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon for the first time,
Okay.
taking in the vastness and beauty of that landscape.
I can practically feel it now.
Yeah.
That sense of awe, the sheer scale of it all.
Yeah.
It would be hard to describe that feeling with just very beautiful.
Right. Overwhelming captures that feeling of being completely captivated and humbled by something truly magnificent.
And on the flip side, overwhelming can also describe those times when we're feeling stressed or anxious.
Yeah.
Like when we're facing a seemingly impossible task or dealing with some really difficult news.
Absolutely. It accurately conveys that feeling of being burdened or weighed down by something heavy.
So overwhelming is a pretty versatile word. It can describe both positive and negative experiences depending on the context.
Exactly. And it's a great example of how choosing the right word can add depth and nuance to your communication.
You know, one thing that's really coming through for me in this conversation is that expanding your vocabulary is about so much more than just memorizing words.
It is.
It's about developing a deeper understanding of how words work, how they evoke emotions, and how they can be used to paint these vivid pictures in the listener's mind.
You got it.
It's beautiful.
That's a fantastic insight. It's about developing a sensitivity to language and appreciating the power of words to shape our thoughts and our experiences.
And it's something that can be incredibly rewarding and enjoyable,
Yeah,
both for the speaker and the listener.
absolutely.
Welcome back to Chat Like a Native. We've been on this journey of swapping out very for way more dynamic words.
Yeah.
And I think we've uncovered some real gems. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's really quite remarkable how even just, making small shifts in our vocabulary can make such a big difference in how polished and interesting our English can sound.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've been talking, I've been thinking about this whole idea of chatting like a native.
Uh-huh.
And it really goes beyond just using the right words.
It really does.
It's also about capturing that natural flow and rhythm of a conversation.
Yeah, that's such a crucial point. It's not about sounding like we're reading from a textbook,
Right.
but it's about expressing yourself with confidence and with ease, just like you would do in your native language.
Exactly. So how can we, as English learners,
Yeah.
really work on developing that natural flow and rhythm?
Well, one of the best things you can do is to immerse yourself in the language as much as possible.
Okay.
So listen to podcasts, watch movies,
Yeah.
and, engage in conversations with native speakers as much as you can.
So it's about absorbing the language through real-life examples,
Yes.
not just studying, grammar rules in isolation.
Exactly. And as you listen to how native speakers are actually using these words in real conversations, right?
You'll start to develop an intuition for how to use them yourself.
I love that. It's like learning by osmosis.
It is.
But, let's be realistic here.
Yeah.
Sometimes, even when we're actively listening and trying to absorb all this new vocabulary,
Right.
there are moments when we just can't seem to find the right word.
Of course.
What do you suggest we do in those situations?
Yeah, don't let those moments derail you. I mean, it happens to absolutely everyone, even native speakers.
Right.
The key is to just not get stuck
Yeah.
searching for that perfect word.
Right.
Instead, just try paraphrasing
Okay.
or using a simpler synonym that gets
Yeah.
your meaning across.
So it's better to keep the conversation flowing smoothly
Exactly.
than to get hung up on finding the absolute most impressive word.
You got it. Because fluency isn't just about your vocabulary.
Uh-huh.
It's about being able to communicate your ideas effectively,
Yeah.
even if you don't have the perfect word at your fingertips right at that moment.
Yeah.
I think that's really reassuring for English learners.
Absolutely.
It takes the pressure off, feeling like you need to know every single word in the dictionary.
Yeah. And remember, even the most eloquent speakers,
Right.
they rely on paraphrasing and synonyms all the time. It's a natural part of how we communicate.
Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
And I think we've given our listeners some really valuable tools to really, enhance their vocabulary and sound more natural and confident in English.
I hope so.
I think so, too.
Remember, this is just the start of your vocabulary journey.
Mm-hmm.
Keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, have fun with it. The more you enjoy the process, the more fluent you'll become.
That's such great advice. So to all our listeners out there, I encourage you to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Ditch, vary, and embrace all of these really powerful words.
Yeah.
You might be surprised at how much they transform your English.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on Chat Like a Native. Keep practicing, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
See ya.